And we are live according to YouTube. Welcome back to Aussies Taking Over the NBA. It is a humble Thursday night, the 20th of February. We have just kind of watched the All-Star break. It's come and gone. How'd you feel about that All-Star weekend? It was good fun, was it?
It was good fun this year, man. I actually really enjoyed it. The game was good. I think that the format really worked, and I think that's how they play going forward. Like, they actually played defense in the final quarter, and it wasn't just a whole bag of flaming, garbage. It was actual basketball, and they were getting heated. The refs were making some bad calls, and it was good fun to watch.
Kyle
Aaron,
Lowry, like, just flopping, and just like, bruh, it's the freaking All-Star game. Like, what are you doing?
All-Star flop. Aaron Gordon getting robbed in the dunk contest again. That was just terrible, man. The dude dunked over Taco Fall. That's ridiculous.
I was listening to Russillo, and he sort of said, Taco Fall cupped some nuts on the back of his head. Like, but that was an interesting weekend. It was actually more interesting than previous seasons. I'm not a big dunk contest guy. You know that if you watch this channel, I'm not big on the dunk contest. Love the 3-point contest. Trae Young just shooting up absolute flaming bags. Just awful. And but then in the a lot of Trae Young in the game, the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Which was a bit like,
how'd you feel Ben Simmons played?
Really good, man. So good every time, just defensively. It's like a silent assassin. It's awesome.
He's got to be in the top 3 for defensive player of the year. Like, just the effect that the defensive effect he's had on games, absolutely unreal. And even in this game, he played a bit. Got a steal to a dunk out of nothing, and obviously the first 3 quarters were just a scoring fest of dunks and 3-pointers. I think at one stage Kawhi Leonard had 7 of 8 from beyond the arc, which is just absurd.
Yeah, but he's like that though. You watch him, and every time you're just like, he can't hit this shot, and then he just hits it, and you're just like, wow, what the hell? Nuts.
The assassin. Do you see him at the end of the game? It's like there's a Gatorade bottle on the table, and just walks up and goes, "I'm not sponsored by Gatorade." Throws the Gatorade bottle on the table. It's just like, this dude is so autistic.
Classic Kawhi.
Or classic Asperger's. All right. Well, today we're going to bring you Phoenix mid-season review. Phoenix Suns mid-season review. Obviously, big Balls Baynes banging buckets. He'd been injured a lot the last month, 6 weeks. Obviously, being a bit older of age in that center position takes a toll on your body, and coming off a pretty heavy off season as well, which we said in that beginning pod. How was that off season going to affect his season? Well, it affected it well. It really did. He's been playing absolutely phenomenally, and it has been the kind of the turning point, I think, for the Suns in a lot of their games. But he's only played 33 games this season, and that has been to the detriment of the Suns, because they didn't have DeAndre Ayton for much of the first 25 games due to that drug ban. Frank Kaminsky has been injured.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much their lineup. They're lacking bigs, and it's really just been the Kelly Oubre and Devin Booker show.
Which, to be honest, I haven't hated.
I haven't hated it.
It was interesting when we started the season. We were kind of just like, what is this team going to do? Adding Ricky Rubio to 2 ball-dominant guys. It's actually been all right to watch, man. And they're playing hard, and I'm like, okay, fair enough. I'll take that. I'll take a little bit of an L on that. Season, like roster-wise, record-wise, 22 of 33. I think that's a decent representation of where they're really at, as opposed to the start of the season they went on a bit of a tear. Baynesy getting injured 13 games in. He didn't play for about 8 games. And then you could tell he came back and was a little bit kind of finding his rhythm, and then he got injured again. But I think the Ayton ban has kind of been a problem for, like, he's had to do too much, and then he broke down, I feel like.
Yeah. His body's probably not that of a starting center. He's probably that impact guy that comes off 16 or 20 minutes a night and passes the crown to Ayton. But I mean, it's good that they've obviously gone out and picked up Jonah Bolden on a 10-day contract. There's that backup 4 and 5 position, the ability to stretch the floor. I mean, they had Saric in that position. The Saric hasn't really worked out at all for them, which is a bit strange, because he kind of worked out in Philly, and you think with a ball passing dominant guard like Ricky Rubio, he'd be able to get Saric in the open. But it just seems that Ricky Rubio is really just going to his main scorers, Ayton, Oubre and Booker, and he just kind of facilitates them. And these other guys are left in the shadows.
Yeah, he had a pretty good connection with Baynesy at the start of the season too,
Yeah,
admittedly. But I think everyone knows how I feel about Rubio, but I still feel like he's been needed, but not as needed as people felt like at the start of the season that they needed. Like he's going to come in, he's going to be great, like he'll be that extra guy. But I feel like the growth in Oubre and Booker this season has been enough to go, all right, we've got two ball dominant guys, let's build around those guys. But there's clearly just not enough around them. We got Aiton kind of, trying to find himself. Baynesy a little bit old, had to kind of carry a little bit of the load and got injured. Saric just kind of was like, all NBA. I'm out. Don't really like this team. Like when you watched him this season, he just looked like,
the
yeah, I'm
body
just here
language.
phoning it in.
Yeah, the body language is not good. Not
Was he
good at
like
all.
that at Philly though?
I think he really liked being at Philly, and he's just been kind of used as a trade pawn ever since. He's kind of a slower, unathletic power forward, but could shoot the three ball pretty well, and has just kind of fallen off a cliff outside of that Philly kind of system where he could stretch the floor and kind of slink up on the backside and cop a pass off Simmons and hit it down. But yeah, there's been some weird trades. Obviously, they took on Tyler Johnson, waived him. Didn't really fit in their system. He waived him. He was on 19 mil a season, so they didn't really see that out. Elliot Kobo's been playing okay. Mikal Bridges has kind of just done nothing. I don't know. Sheik Dalio. These guys have all been just it's really been the Devin Booker and Kelly Oubre show with a little bit of Aiton and Baynes and Rubio thrown in the mix. I think that this round they've got to draft sensible, maybe pick up a scoring point guard that doesn't need the ball in his hands. I don't know. You could.
I think you've got to give the ball to Booker and Oubre and manage that. But then you got to think, I guess, how much of a depreciating strategy really is that, giving two different ball dominant guys the ball if you're trying to play like a growing system? Like, okay, Houston's probably the one you look at and you just go, look, two ball dominant guys, Westbrook and Harden. How good's that? But how much have they just mutilated their roster to make that happen?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think if you had Oubre and Booker, you'd want to try and grow the team around them to be a team rather than just go, oh, let's mutilate this roster and we'll have Booker and Oubre, do a lot of ball dominant stuff on the ball. Like I said, Ricky Rubio's actually been quite good, but it's just like if he was maybe a 21-year-old third year guy, yeah, I'm happy to stand on the sidelines and just
Yeah.
But he really, as a 50 million pound guy, 50 million over 3 years, I think he's on. He's signed with the
55
Suns.
over 3 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of like too much Rubio. And
Yeah.
look, I'm biased. I don't really like Rubio. I don't like his style. I don't think it fits with many teams that have ball dominant guys. Like he's great for Spain when he plays for Spain because there's a lot of pick and roll. There's a lot of FIBA spacing. And you're like, that's the kind of player where that works. And I love watching him play for Spain. But in this NBA setup, like I think there's too much kind of ball stopping for a guy like Rubio to be effective.
Yeah. And defensively, he's a little bit of a pushover as well. He's kind of.
But that's not good enough. Like, it's not really good enough for a team like this.
The problem is we've been spoiled with the mutant point guard. Like it's either the 6'8" to 6'10" incredible handles, just athleticism, or it's the 6'1" ridiculous shooting. And Rubio is neither of those. He's a good facilitator, but you've got to kind of put him around a lot of shooters. And Oubre and Booker aren't really shooters. They've got to create their own shot. And same with Aiton. Aiton's almost got to create his own shots. They're not really shoot first kind of guys, and he's kind of reliant on those coming off a screen shooters. And that's why it was a little bit better at the Timberwolves. It's kind of why he worked with Cat a little bit in that setup. But yeah, whether he works in this is yet to be seen. Do you think adding the Jonah Bolden piece was decent, or do you think he's just going to get his 10 days and then 10 days and then kind of pushed on?
I think that is like I think I'm guessing that's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
But I like the addition, man. If they could sign him in any respect, I think he'd fit that team because he's a kind of all round in out big. Like it's kind of like
yeah,
what Saric is, but he's got something to prove over Saric, where you can kind of see Saric's body language is just like doesn't want to be there. I feel like
yeah.
Bolden has like a career redeemer type thing in his DNA, ready to go that'll fit this team. So I like him, man. I hope they sign him for good. Sucks kind of that he got, you know, was he
It's-
waived in the end?
yeah,
No,
he
he
was
wasn't.
waived, but
Was he waived? Yeah.
he's waived. He's still getting paid 2 years though, so it's good.
Yeah.
Still got 2 years left on his contract. I mean, he was on such a minuscule contract in terms of NBA standards that I think it was 1.7 next year and 1.5 the following year. Um, so a couple of $1 million, but at least he's got financial security and able to potentially take a flexible contract to redeem himself down at Phoenix. I'm hoping that they sign him to 2 10 days and potentially Frank Kaminsky is still injured, or Saric, they don't really see Saric being a fit for this team, and Bolden can slot in there nicely and start, stretching the floor and being that more athletic power forward / backup center. Because, Bainesy's great, but he's not going to be around forever. And I think Bolden's got enough young upside in him. 24, played a lot of college, also been in good system in Philly, played in Europe. So he's played all styles of basketball. I think it's a good addition to the team. I was surprised he wasn't picked up by, a kind of a shooting team, maybe even the Bucks. Dude can shoot when he's given the chance to play some minutes. We've seen that last season, and we've seen that when he's played in the G League. So we'll see how it fits. But this Baynesy hip soreness is a little bit of a worry for me. He's not really getting better.
So when did he play his last game? I was looking at the Jonah Bolden stats just before we move off Bolden. Like I like it, man. Like his situation really didn't. Like it was a kind of like a bad situation. Everything that happened.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably the best franchise for him to just come in. Oh, you guys are balling? Like, okay, I'll ball. Like, I like that.
Yeah.
That's going to really work with his attitude, because I really do think he needs to kind of redeem himself. Not because he's done something wrong, but I think his profile needs a just look. I'm here, guys. Like, this is me. I'm gonna ball, because I feel he fit that team, but it wasn't really like you couldn't see what he was as a basketball player. Like he kind of had to fit this team. They had star bigs, and Ben Simmons is a star as well, and they were building like pieces that are quite mature. That's kind of why he got shuffled away to the sort of outskirts of that team a little bit. But I feel like in a young team with not necessarily nothing to play for, but not that much to play for, like I really feel like he can rebuild his career a little bit like Thon Maker, where now that Drummond's gone, it's a similar situation where it's like, oh, I can ball now, sweet, I'm just going to ball and show everyone what I can do, which is good for him. But Baynesy, yeah, like he started this season really, really good. He's been out since the 20th of January, so that's about a month now. 33, it's a bit of a worry.
It is a little bit of a worry. I think he's probably in the twilight years of his body. He's a big dude. Like it's been kind of amazing that he's been playing this long at such a high level. Maybe a restful off season, but that's not going to happen. Obviously, if the Olympics go ahead and they do play the Olympics, he's going to be an integral part of that Aussie team. I think because we're realistically going to be down a functional big. I think Bogut's probably not going to be functional come this setup, because you want to take that outside the paint. You don't really need Bogut to facilitate if Ben Simmons is going to play. There's absolutely no point of him facilitating. All the plays will run through Ben Simmons, and so Bainesy's got to be at the point, at the corner, just knocking down three balls like he did in this World Cup, like he's done in the early part of this season for Phoenix. Is just shoot lights out, shoot high volume, and that way he doesn't have to run post to post. You can run post to 3-point, 3-point to post, and you get more out of him, more minutes. And I'd like to see Bolden play those backup center minutes potentially, or Thon playing in that backup center minutes for Baynesy, who can stretch the floor and shoot the three ball. I honestly think that Bogut is probably just going to be taken along for shits and giggles,
just for a bit of experience and a little bit of a send off type.
Yeah,
like,
if you're seriously going in to win a gold medal, you want Jonah Bolden, you want Baynesy, you want Thon. That's your three. That's your big three.
I hope he goes though, Bogut. Anyway, I think he deserves.
Oh yeah, he deserves
bring him
to go.
along for the medal, man. Because if we somehow won a gold medal and Bogut wasn't there, or what other kind of stalwarts do we have?
Kind of
Delhi and Paddy.
really,
Like if one of those two wasn't there, man, I'd be so bummed.
Paddy's going to be there. Paddy's still awesome though.
Yeah, that's true. But if Delhi wasn't there, like you'd feel like, oh man, that sucks, man, because he had been such a good servant for Australia, much like Bogut, and I think Baynesy as well has been a great servant for Australia, and he is kind of paying the price for playing such a heavy kind of off season. And then I do think the Ayton things kind of played into it, where he had to like just play and play and play and play and play. And I could see a lot of sort of people talking about behind the scenes, like, why he's playing so much, man? Like, you know, I don't know how he can keep this up. And then he got that injury. I think it was a wrist injury earlier in the season. And then now it's that hip. It's honestly, it's a worry. I'd hate, like at his age, hip injuries and like, you know, ribs or something like that. That's a worry for a big man like that.
Yeah, it's starting to go real wear and tear on the body more than, you know, acute injuries. It's chronic tendonitis, pain, re-injury. I know he's done that hip before. I think he did that hip at Boston last year as well. Missed a few games there. So that's a bit of a worry. Now we'll get back into the Phoenix. Devin Booker All-Star snub. Originally, obviously, D. Lillard giving up his spot for him. Do you think that was warranted, or do you think that Booker really did deserve to be there over, say, a Kyle Lowry or even a Trae Young?
Lowry's the East, and Trae Young's the East as well.
Yeah, I know that, but like deserved-wise, do you think he's a better player?
Man. Like, I think it's one of those ones where you just go, it's Devin Booker, man. Like, he deserves to be there. But then when you kind of drill down into it, you're just like, his team hasn't been that good. And he's been good. And that's, you know, what that gets into like what defines All-Star. Like, is it a great player on a team and it doesn't matter? You know what I mean? Or is it are the best players in the league in the All-Star because they're the teams that, you know, are at the top of the league? But you know, him just missing out and then being called up, I'm like, yeah, fair enough. Like, I'm like, that kind of represents where he's at. I didn't really look at the rosters too in depth, and now with the LeBron Giannis thing, it's all the captains and shit. Like, it really doesn't really matter. Like, it's just 16 players, or how many players? 22 players, and you're just like, it's licorice all sorts, really. Like, it's not you're the best of the like, and then they draft like even that. Like, it's just a jumble of players, really. Like, half of these guys are on this team, half of these guys are on this team. Like, to get snubbed, I know it's got like contractual obligations and stuff like that.
It's clutch sports versus non-clutch sports.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like, I'll take him. It was, look, I really enjoyed it. You know, Booker played okay in the minutes that he did. Yeah, he didn't get a lot of minutes. It really was a kind of a big boy Kobe Bryant affair. I think there's a lot of guys that had a lot of connection to Kobe. They're playing in the heavier minutes. And Kawhi Leonard just being an absolute beast, because that's what Kawhi Leonard is. And Simmons having a good game as well. And Embiid having a bit of fun with it. So it was a good game. I think Booker deserved to be there. He's kind of on that cusp of you know, he's still young. This is what people don't realize. I think Devin Booker's the youngest person to like 6,000 points or something.
He's 23 and only really just turned 23 and 113 days. I think like it describes it well that he was just on the cusp and made it because someone pulled out. Like, you're not going, it's a travesty. You know what I mean? You're kind of going, okay, like it all worked out in the end. But even if he didn't make it, I kind of would have gone, you know what? Fair enough, I guess.
Yeah.
But I still, like, I enjoy watching him. It's just a little bit too much hogging the ball. Like, a little bit too ball dominant for my liking, personally.
A little bit ball dominant. He has dropped the 3-point attempts this season. 26.5 points a game. Averaging 22 of his career over the first. This is his 5th season. Wow, that's for 23. He's definitely on his way to being.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
an elite player. Does tend to get injured a little bit as well, and has done in the first few years. Missed a few games here and there, but Yeah,
I wonder how much of that was the early build of that team. Like, that team was so bad that it was just like Devin Booker plus some dudes, basically, some guys from the rec center. Now it's starting to get into a better, like starting to be formed into a better team. Like this team is probably about 3 or 4 players and some experience and some vets away from being, oh, this team could actually be a playoff team. Like not like you're not going, this team's going to make the playoffs in 4 years guaranteed. Like you're kind of going, this team's got some pieces that now it can build into some more and maybe, be a playoff team that makes it.
Put us this way, they're much further along than Atlanta in the East, than Detroit in the East, than the Cavs. They're a lot further along. They, potentially if they draft smart over the next couple of seasons, move Rubio on somehow and get a better scoring point guard, I would say, that, can facilitate off Booker a little bit more.
LaMelo. Who said that? Somebody said that?
Yeah.
It feels like a Phoenix Suns pick, man. LaMelo.
Yeah. He's going to be higher up than that, though. Rubio's averaging 12.5 points. That's just not good enough for $50 million point guard. Decent amount of assists, moving the ball around, 8.6 assists this season. But yeah, 12.5 points, you need to get that up closer to 20. And I think that's what they really need to do in order to be successful moving forward into the next couple of years. But if Kelly Oubre maintains that level that he's grown to, which has been phenomenal, definitely in line for most improved this year, I would say out of a 6 or 7, then we could see them in the playoffs next year.
I think it's 2 years away, but it's a wild. They've got this wild card factor to them. Like it's not necessarily like a situation where like I can see the trajectory of this team. They've got growth here and here. Like it just could one season they could just go and make the playoffs. Like and you just like whoa, like that blew me away. They made the playoffs. How cool was that? I don't see the longevity in it, but I do like Booker, and Booker being 24. Between now and when he's 30, I feel like they're going to make the playoffs. I think he's good enough, and with Oubre as well, I think Oubre is good enough as a kind of an offsider to Booker. They're both 24, like so.
It's growth, man.
Yeah,
there's definite growth in this team, and they're kind of if Ayton picks up his game a little bit, comes a little bit more of a rim defender. I think that's the issue, is that he's great scoring, but just defending the rims a little bit. He's not quite a 7-footer. Very skilled big man, but yeah, he's got to get that rim defense a little bit better. Hopefully Bolden can pick up something and put some oomph in that 4 spot and get them going. He played one game just before All-Star break. Looked really good. Didn't score a lot, but looked good defensively. Looked good on the hustle. And we need to see a bit more of him.
I think it could be a real second wind for him.
Yeah, definitely.
Baynesy, should we read out some of his stats for this season so far? This season, he's averaging 11.5 points per game, 5.8 rebounds, and 1.9 assists. Shooting the ball at 49%, and then 33.3% from 3. I think at one stage he was up near 50% again in that early stretch of the season.
Yep.
He kind of you could tell after that injury, he kind of tapered off a little bit. You could see that he just wasn't quite right. He's had a couple of games to start the season, 24 points, 20 points, 23 points against Miami. Against the Lakers, he had 20 points. So not games where it's just, he's just playing against Florida and, feasted. Like in some big games, he had some really good nights. But yeah, I really hope he recovers from that hip injury and sort of comes back strong, because I think over the next, is he contracted for 2 years, I think?
No, it's just year
to year.
Yep.
I really think over the next couple of years he can kind of be a veteran piece before he kind of moves on, give them a bit more of a boost.
Oh, I definitely think so too. I think there's a couple of guys that they need to move on from, pick up a couple of picks and see where it takes them. Get smart. That's what you got to do. Pick smart and, pick up some. I think this is a good time of year potentially where they could pick up some waived players, man. Ryan Brokoff.
Yeah, man, that'd be awesome. How many Aussies would be in that team? That'd be sick. Anyone else that can just sneakily pick up Delhi and get rid of Rubio? Nah, mate. Your face, man. Like, You being serious?
Well, it's, we
Yeah.
can go on to Delhi for a little bit. Obviously, the Cavs have just parted ways with their coach, but
Oh, they
Delhi
did.
hasn't. Yeah, they did. That happened this morning.
It's
Yeah.
just
Apparently, they're just like, this dude is just retarded. He's a college coach, man. We can't play like this for 82 games a year. Like, what are you doing? But Delhi hasn't been put in the buyout, which is nice. I think that gives us some indication that they want him as a veteran presence in that Cavs rebuild going forward, and he can potentially be in the NBA for a couple of years as that deep rotation point guard on a couple of mil a season, which would be nice. I think.
I'm just trying to look at their depth. A small forward, maybe they're a small forward light. This is Phoenix. I almost could see Brokoff maybe fitting that. Maybe he's not quite forward enough. He's a bit more guard than forward, though he can play as a forward. But man, that'd be a great pick. Actually, would be a pretty good pickup for them if they could somehow pick him up. I don't know how the contracts would work, but that would be a very interesting pickup because they kind of need an off-ball shooter.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of like it's not necessarily what a team needs. Like you just like every team needs like off-ball shooters, But like the way this team's built, there's ball-dominant guys, there's bigger guys. Like Ayton even kind of needs the ball. But I think another off-ball shooter in this team would be very, very interesting.
All right, yeah, couldn't agree more.
All right, well, we might just wrap it up there because I think look, they've kind of surprised me this season. Like I thought they would be good, not good, but good to watch. I didn't think they'd be good, but I was like, I can actually watch this team because I like the hustle. But it was kind of like confirmation bias of me always wanting to be just like, well, I've planted my flag. I want them to be bad. So every time they were good, I'd just be like, damn it. But I'd still watch it and be intrigued. But now I've now that they're going to be, around probably 38 or 380 win percentage, maybe 400. I'm kind of like, I like this team and where it's heading.
Yeah, it's heading in the right direction, I think, compared to the last couple of seasons. Again, one more piece. Rubio probably not a great signing. Draft well. See if they can't get a good off-ball shooter and some sort of point guard that is not taking as many shots as Rubio. Field goal percentages is 40. It's just terrible. It's just terrible. I mean, his 3-point percentage is 33, but it's the field goal percentage, man. It's not a good for a point guard when you're only scoring 12 points a game and he's taking 11 shots a game. That's too much.
Too many shots, man. I don't know. There must be like a quota on how many times I've just been like, Rubio, too many shots on this podcast. Too many shots.
For the last 3 seasons, he's averaged exactly 10.7 shots per game. That's hilarious. The whole season. That's weird.
If all of them were at the rim, you'd be like, yes, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Just field goals by distance at the rim. I know the amount field goals 54%, attempted.
45% from 2.
So 25% of his looks have been at the rim.
Yeah. Too much outside shooting.
Far out, man. That's awful it's crazy. Yeah. 30% of his looks have been from 3. 18.5% between 16 feet and 3-point line. 13% from 10 and 16. 3 and 10, that's 13%, and then 25% of the rim. Okay, that's not too bad. But yeah, to be taking that many threes, 30% of his shots are threes, like no.
No, Ricky Rubio.
Please don't. No. All right, well, we might wrap it up there. It was a good little punchy episode. We've got this one out. What do we got coming up?
We've got Dallas, Ryan Brokoff send off. We've got the Jazz, and then working our way up to Philly, and then we'll be back to regular programming.
Yep.
At the end of next week, obviously once some games start building up, and we're back from All-Star break. But next episode will be Dallas.
Dallas. Yeah, kind of. They've kind of really tapered off a little bit, haven't they?
Yeah, and I think that is the Luka Doncic effect. But we'll talk about that on the Dallas podcast.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys on the next episode. Take it easy.
Peace out.